Joining us now to discuss is Rand Paul. He is senator from the great state of Kentucky, and he's also the author of The Case Against Socialism. Rand Paul, thank you so much for joining us this evening. Listen, you have been warning America about the inflationary dangers of this massive orgy of spending from Joe Biden as well as his allies on Capitol Hill. And I know you're keenly aware of the dangers that we face. A warning also came out today from somebody who I think we should pay attention to, Paul Tudor Jones, who is probably the most legendary money manager in America today. Let's listen to his warnings, and then I want to get your reaction. Here's Paul Tudor Jones.
There's a combination of structural and cyclical forces that right now are all rolling in the same direction to say that inflation can be much worse than what we fear. We have a Federal Reserve Board that are inflation creators, right, not inflation fighters. And that is a huge, huge deal.
So, Senator, on both the warning side in terms of ringing the alarm bell, that this could be far worse than most people realize, as well as the fact that the Fed is largely out to lunch in terms of fighting inflation, what is your reaction to Paul Tudor Jones?
I think he's absolutely right. I think it's going to be worse than anybody's predicting. There's no transitory nature to this. This is something that's with us, going to be with us until we quit borrowing so much money. I think the inflation right now we have, the Social Security Administration said they're going to increase the cost of living increase next year 5.9%. This is the largest increase in cost of living or inflationary adjustment that we've had in probably 30 years. But realize that that 6% inflation is based on the $3 or $4 trillion we borrowed last year. That was infused into the system through borrowing and printing money last year. This year, we're already at $3 or $4 trillion in debt, and they're talking about $3 or $4 more trillion. So I think what's going to happen is that you've got 6% now from last year's behavior. This year's behavior can go even higher. So I think we could hit double-digit inflation. It's incredibly disruptive. The labor market's screwed up. Every part of the food chain is screwed up. And people think that this is somehow something that's just transient, that's going to get better. No, my prediction is it gets worse over time because we aren't learning our lesson. And he's exactly right. The Fed is aiding and abetting big government. They're not trying to put on any kind of restraint. They are actually encouraging this spending spree.
And, Senator, not only that, but, of course, it's easy for those of us on the right to call out this inflation, call out the return to the 1970s. But coming from somebody like Tudor Jones, I mean, he's a major philanthropist, not necessarily a political guy. Calling this out, it really adds to the credibility of that warning.
I think so, and you can't escape this. This isn't one of those things you can just say it isn't happening because there's so much evidence of it all around us. I mean, people go to the gas station, they can see it. People go to the grocery store, they can see it. So this isn't something that people through political persuasion can simply say, oh, it's not happening. People know it's happening, and I think this is reflected in the numbers of people losing confidence in Joe Biden. Some said, oh, he was going to be stability, and then we had the Afghan debacle. He was going to bring this guiding, comforting hand to the economy. Now we have inflation rising. And really, it's this bait and switch. The Democrats say, here's something for free, but it is a bait and switch. Nothing really is free. It's paid for through borrowed money, but ultimately through inflation as well.
Senator, I want to ask you about that aspect of it because, I've made the point that I think that independents are leaving their support of President Biden in droves because of this very issue, because of inflation. People who aren't necessarily particularly politically involved, but, to your point, everyone has to live with the consequences of this Biden inflation surge on a day-to-day basis. Now, what the Biden folks will claim and his allies in corporate media will claim is that, well, this is the natural result of a recovering economy. And I want to put some data here on the board to dispel that. If we can take a look at CPI, you will notice that in the second half of last year, when Donald Trump was still president, for the last 6 months of his administration, CPI, the Consumer Price Index, was at 1.4% or lower, and that was as the U.S. economy was aggressively reopening, particularly in freedom jurisdictions, places like Florida. So we had aggressive growth with extremely tame inflation. And as that graph that we're putting on the screen shows, it literally started to explode as soon as Joe Biden took office. Now, to me, the numbers tell the tale there, and the numbers don't lie. This is completely a creation. It is a created crisis of Joe Biden, along with Chuck Schumer and Nancy Pelosi, all conspiring to take a government that was already borrowing and spending too much and putting that borrowing and spending on absolute steroids. Your thoughts?
If this were transitory and had to do with COVID primarily, we would have had great problems, and we did have some problems in the chain of supply when all the meat packers were sick, when 98% of the meat packers were ill with COVID and coming down with COVID, and half of them were at home and half of them were coming back. We did have some disruption of supply of meat and grocery store when people were worried about it, buying too much toilet paper and things like that. We had that. That was pandemic related. We're a year and a half into that. We have more people that now are sort of functioning and learning, unfortunately learning, but having to learn to live with this. And I think we really don't have the disruptions we had a year ago. So the only thing to explain the disruptions now really is inflation. The only thing I would differ slightly with you on your analysis is some of that inflation, it all did sort of look like it perks up under Biden, but some of it's a lag time from borrowing. So there was Republican and Democrat borrowing that went on in the last year of Trump's administration during the pandemic, which was part of the problem. And now it's on steroids. It's getting even worse under this administration. But I predict that the next year will be even worse, all baked in from this year's borrowing. So as they pass their big government socialist program, we will get more inflation. We've already got 6%. We're going to get vast amounts more. And the people it hurts the worst are those on fixed income, retired folks, and those people who are workers on lower wages at the beginning of the socioeconomic ladder. They will be hurt the worst by inflation, and they're the ones being offered free stuff. So on the one hand, the Democrats say, here's a bunch of free stuff, but on the other hand, they don't tell them you're going to pay for it by higher prices in the grocery store and at the gas pump.
Well, Senator, of course, contributing to that, the infrastructure bill, your colleague, Senator Joe Manchin, doesn't want any of that spending that's going to contribute to that inflation. In the reports today that he may leave the Democrat Party altogether. He then pushed back on that, calling it BS. But curious to get your reaction to that.
We've got an open seat for him. I go to a Republican lunch almost every day, and we've got a seat for him. There's a lot of actually good feelings towards Joe Manchin. A lot of people communicate with him on a daily basis, find him to be a reasonable voice. And the thing is the Democrats have gone so far to the left that a reasonable, moderate, middle of the road like Joe Manchin, but who's also pro-energy in the sense that he knows we have to have coal, we have to have fossil fuels, and we're not getting rid of gas-burning cars in any kind of near-term future. That kind of reasonable person is more and more shunned by the Democrats and has no place there. I don't know if he'll choose to change parties, but I can say that he will be welcome in our caucus should he choose to come, and that I think we would find a place and he would be an important voice in our caucus should he choose to come. His state certainly is there. His state is overwhelmingly Republican. I think he's still able to win as a Democrat there, but we would welcome him if the socialists keep trying to boot him out of their party. We're happy to have him in ours.